Welcome to the Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Mosi Thurlow scale,
or MOTS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Yippee Ki-yay, melon farmers, and welcome back to Lost Signals Discusses and Reviews Film and Television. And for the holiday Christmas season, we've chosen to do Die Hard this year, which is officially indeed a Christmas movie, and we will expand upon that why and how in a minute. But of course, I am your host, Scott Thurlow. Tonight, I'm joined by Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Go NYPD, suck it LAPD.
Indeed, and Stephen Amosi.
Yeah, except for Reginald.
Except for one guy
Johnson
on the LAPD, for wure. All right, well, with that, E, why don't you give us the log line for this pick?
It's a wonderful life to die hard.
Indeed it is. Oh, you're goddamn right about that. All right, so we're going to go with plot, and that'll be Steve-O.
All right, well, Bruce Willis, John McClane, lands in L.A., goes to see his estranged wife, and presumably their children, although he does not see them throughout this entire movie.
He sees them on TV.
That's true. Some shit goes down like fairly quickly where a group of German terrorists decide to take over Nakatomi Plaza, the building that they are all in for a Christmas party at the time. It is
Christmas Eve, to be clear.
It is Christmas Eve. It is Christmas Eve, and it is a Christmas movie, as we have mentioned previously. He slowly and methodically picks off all of the terrorists throughout the night.
Yep.
And I mean, it's not a super crazy plot. I could go into a lot of details, but I don't.
He figures out
really
their scheme.
Necessary.
Yeah, and like you said, starts picking them off and go on.
Yeah, he just kind of decides, or not decides. He kind of tries to keep everybody safe, although he's unsuccessful at several points, which they do a good job of showing how that kind of eats at him, and it's all about coming down to the final showdown with Hans Gruber, the mastermind behind the plot to steal a bunch of money from the Nakatomi Corporation, I suppose.
From their safe, I believe. It's bonds or whatever.
Yeah. It's all a really well done, fun action movie that I don't think it gets too crazy in terms of the twists and turns of the plot, but
not just him. It's him doing MacGyver things against the terrorists.
As you mentioned when we were watching the movie, Ian, I think they do a really good job of everybody involved making smart moves, and even the bad guys being kind of likable to a certain extent, which is why I think this movie has stood the test of time. But at the end, he confronts Gruber, shoots him. Gruber falls out the window, taking the Rolex with him. The Chekhov's Rolex.
Yeah, you're gonna say that
with him, and that's pretty much it. And then he has an emotional moment with his police officer that he's been talking to this entire time. Also, his wife is there, and and that's the end of the movie. So I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it than that, but that's kind of the broad strokes, I think.
All right, so I'm going to go a little bit more in depth.
Please.
Why I think this is perhaps the best action movie of all time, and if not the best, then
certainly up there. I agree with that, at least. Is
the fact that, as you mentioned, the decision-making within this, both on Bruce Willis, or John McClane's part and the terrorist's part, are, for the most part, rational. It's not like anyone makes and horror movies are plagued with this, and action movies are as well, of just people making stupid moves.
Yeah.
Here, if a dumb move is made, it's a point that it's an emotional move.
In the heat of passion, yeah.
Yeah, so John McClane drops some C4 down an elevator shaft, which was successful, but was a dumb move. But he did it out of anger and desperation and passion. And it was an emotional decision. It wasn't a rational decision. So again, aside from maybe the end scene when Hans Gruber should have just had his minion shoot John McClane.
Yes.
Everyone in it made good moves, and Carl Winslow is the emotional support, and actually, action stars often aren't allowed to be like the emotional characters.
Yeah.
They kind of have that neutral face,
Sure.
as the term is. And Carl Winslow, not the actor
Al.
who played,
Officer Al.
Carl Winslow's after he has to go into witness
services,
protection.
yes.
Witness protection. Yeah.
Does provide that emotional connection that so that you care more deeply about John McClane.
And fleshes him out. Yeah, for
So
sure.
I think overall this is one of the best action movies, and it's a good movie when compared to great movies as well. It's a great action movie, and it's a good movie compared to
In general.
other
Yeah.
genres.
No, I definitely agree. So, hold on. Sivo, you said something like, it stands the test of time. I think that is certainly true. Yeah, I think it is in the pantheon of like one of the best action movies made. And as you said, just a very good, entertaining movie in general, because, I'll just add on that it's almost as if they're playing chess against each other. McClane versus like the moves of the terrorists, and they all have a plan, and they adapt on the fly until something like sort of emotionally gets to them, and they make a mistake or like make a very rash judgment and action. But for the most part, they're meticulously like trying to plot each other and like making their moves and trying to. Of course, the terrorists are trying to get their money out of the vault, while McClane he literally says he's throwing a monkey. He's like, I'm the monkey in the wrench.
Well, actually, to bring up the
pain in the ass.
Yeah.
there's two scenes. One, John McClane bluffing Hans Gruber, and one, Hans Gruber bluffing John McClane.
Yeah, exactly.
That really demonstrate the chess match between
Yep,
them.
that's perfectly said. And yeah, so if we're going to scores, I think, as you said, and I agree, it totally holds up. I'm going to give it full points, I believe. There was never, there's not a lackluster part. I don't think there's any, wasted scenes or scenes that went on too long. I think it uses its time perfectly. And it's a damn good action plot. And because the characters are fleshed out throughout and well done, well acted, and it just makes sense. So,
yeah, this film's a bit over 2 hours, and it doesn't feel that long. And, that says a lot about how well paced the plot
indeed.
is.
And most action films are probably less than 2 hours in general.
Yeah, I would say so. Now, here's a question, or something I just thought of when you were talking, Ian. It's like, I am a little bit, I don't know what's the word, miffed that this movie is not on the AFI Top 100. And I'm trying to think of if there are any, straight up action movies on the Top 100. I don't think there are, but I might be wrong.
Well, we did Raiders of the Lost Ark recently-ish, which is mostly an action movie.
True. Action adventure, I guess.
Yeah. But I think it's comparable, the two, because both had so much influence within their respective subgenres of action.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I would say it's almost got a little bit Indiana Jones, a little bit of Bond, kind of like Hans Gruber is sort of a Bond villain to a degree. You know what I mean? You can see sort of a version of him being a Bond villain. But I'm just saying it has elements of that, McClane is having those sort of Bond-ish fist fights and stuff, and crawling through ducts and so forth.
It has a little bit of absurdist humor, especially with FBI.
Yeah,
which
a little bit there. Sure.
I remember the FBI was in it. I remember that they weren't great people, but I didn't realize how weird
kind of
it
slapstick.
was.
They're really bonkers. All the parts with them, when they're just in the helicopter, hooting and cheering. What? And the other part that when it happened, I was like, what the hell? Why is that in this movie? Was when the LAPD is trying to storm the building, and one of them stabs himself with a rose thorn. He's like, ah!
Yeah. It's just, and I said at the time, you said something.
So weird.
You said something about it, and I said it's to show the incompetence of the rest of the enforcement versus John McClane, of course.
It just seemed like such a...
It's random, but...
NYPD rules and LAPD.
It's comic relief.
John McClane's got glass in his feet at the time,
Anyways, does that mean you guys are giving it a 3 though?
Yeah, I'm going to give it full credit for this.
All right.
I deduct 0.1, but it's still going to be a 3.
Mm-hmm. Rounded still to a 3.
Argyle shtick went on a little bit too long for me.
It was fine. He redeemed himself, I'll say.
Yeah, he did have a point in the end, but I think if you had taken him out of the film, I don't know how much of a difference
it wouldn't have been any different at all. It was
sure, but I still like him as a character. We'll get to that later, but it looks like we're all giving full points on plot.
I think he was a little bit of comedic relief, and
sure.
we'll talk about him in supporting. But
sure. All right, so it's 3s all around for plot, and that'll be on to Ian with the themes.
Before we get into the themes of this film, Die Hard, there's a debate going on. I don't know how much of it's a manufactured debate.
Almost certainly all of it, but go on and
But
introduce
we're
it.
going to settle that manufactured debate here and now.
Mhm.
Die Hard. Is it a Christmas film?
As I said in the intro, and we are the definitive answer to all this kind of pop culture stuff, of course, yes, it is
Sure.
a Christmas film.
What makes a film a Christmas film?
Well,
Go
I
ahead, you
would
first,
say
Devo.
it's a film set around Christmas.
In and around Christmas, yeah,
and,
check.
That has a lot of the trimmings of Christmas time, right? There's
hmm
Christmas decorations all over the place. People are talking about Christmas themes throughout the
And
movie.
activities, yes.
There are there's a point. Well, first, there's a bunch of Christmas music that is used to set the stage
Throughout.
for this movie. Also, there is a point where the first bad guy that gets killed has an overtly Christmas message written
blood.
on his written in blood on his sweatshirt.
True.
As he is delivered back to his brethren, we'll say
This cohort.
his cohort.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. I don't see what the point of arguing this is. It's
It's kind of hitting
if you don't think it's a Christmas movie,
then fine. Sure.
okay, but who cares?
Look, we exist in a society where your opinion is the correct one, and everyone who doesn't share your opinion
Thumbs up
deserves
or
to be
thumbs
shot.
down.
Oh, thank
Of
you.
course.
I appreciate you recognizing that my opinion is the correct one as well.
Yours specifically. But no, like I think if I might jump in and maybe I'm stealing this answer for you, but it's about coming home for the holidays, or at least that's the framework of it, right? John McClane trying to visit his wife on Christmas Eve, and he just happens to walk into a fucking terrorist situation.
Yeah.
But he's bringing her a gift. He wants to see his kids. They're setting up for Christmas and so forth.
Lots of talk of
So-
Christmas miracles.
Yeah.
Eurotrash interrupting our Christmas
Yeah.
party.
Crashing our American holidays.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cowboys versus, again, like the foreigners. So no. But yeah, I mean, like, you're right. It's sort of a moot point. Like, who cares if it's whether or not, or is it really a Christmas film?
Versus far. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. 1 second.
Christmas versus foreigners. dude.
One moment.
You heard me.
Why is
I don't know.
Cowboys versus Foreigners of a Christmas theme?
I don't know. It's not really a theme. You're right. As I said that, I was like, I don't know if that actually
But
matters.
it's a theme of the movie.
Sure.
So that's a good segue into the actual movie.
Yeah, take it away.
Definitely the Western vibe is set here.
For sure.
With Roy Rogers, but no, really, it is a John Wayne type character fighting against a gang of outlaws coming to rob the
The American Homestead.
Yeah. And there's now this part is dated, which was the era of like Rising Sun by Michael Crichton, where there's a fear that the Japanese were going to take over America. Now it's Russians. Who knows what it'll be?
No,
10
it's
years
Chinese now. Come
from now.
on.
That's true. No, it was Chinese 5 years ago. Now it's Russians.
It's more rapidly
Um,
changing. But
It'll be
regardless.
Chinese again in like 3
Yeah,
years.
we should be paying
Nonetheless.
attention to the Chinese.
Sure.
But it was that time when the Japanese were a threat, and Nakatomi Plaza, while not the villain of this, was shown to be like the dominant like part of the LA landscape and
Like
economic
marketplace,
power. And resiliency, family, the
Walking on glass.
I mean,
It's a theme of this
Also a
movie.
theme, apparently.
but the everyday man
Yeah.
rising up to battle a situation that he may not be prepared for.
I mean, he's somewhat qualified. Maybe this is protagonist, but he's a cop, so it's not like he's like a fish out of water per se.
But I generally, if you go to New York, I'm in New York quite a bit, and see any cop there, I'm pretty sure that they're not going
They're
to
not equipped
survive
for John
very
McClane
quickly.
type shit.
Yes,
Sure.
against the heavily armed European hit squad.
But no, I mean, I was going to add on to
No one would. Not many people would.
as funny and as accurate as that might be, but it's also something like, yeah, you mentioned like he refers to himself, John McClane, that is, as a American, like Roy Rogers, etc., and is called John Wayne, I believe, at first by Hans. But yeah, it was also like late 80s, 88, I believe, right? So it's like the era of possible terrorist attack, like Brazil kind of stuff, like right. So like that's certainly like the framework and very much contained therein. But I think everything else you said also certainly fits and is at least, if not deeply addressed, present in the film. So, what do you think, Steve?
I mean, I completely agree with that. I like the take on the Western. It's definitely that's definitely a big part of what's going on here. It's interesting. So we mentioned The Rock earlier, and like it's interesting the two different takes on this. So, like The Rock, which came later, was very much serious about free the I'm here to right or wrong. Whereas Hans Gruber in Die Hard is like whatever keeps him busy. Like I'll tell him whatever. Free these freedom fighters all over the fucking world.
Yeah, it's misdirections. It's part of his elaborate plan.
So it's interesting to see the way that went in terms of action movies. Like a few 10 years later or however long later The Rock came out after this movie, and the fact that this film, despite the fact that so I remember watching this maybe for the second or third time a while ago, and not remembering the exact plot of it, and wondering what Hans Gruber's aim was, and to find out that he was just a thief was kind of a letdown for me at that point. But this time watching it through, I was like, I kind of like that. It's not, there's nothing deeper to he just wants he wants a bunch of money, and
it's a simple criminal motivation. That sort of broadly applies.
God, I like that in my criminals.
Sure.
Just try to steal some money.
It reminds, I mentioned the Bond thing. It reminds me of GoldenEye when he confronts Trevor, he's like, "You're just a simple thief." It's almost the same fucking speech, almost the same line. Mm-hmm. But regardless, I believe that means we're giving themes A1.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And is there anything, Mister, you want to address?
Probably,
but on top of that,
I think that we covered enough.
I think sure there are. Please let us know if we've missed themes in this movie, because I could talk about that for a while. Anyway, go on.
Well, I will talk about antagonists. Probably one of the greatest antagonists of all time, as portrayed by Alan Rickman, Hans Gruber. Yeah, as you sort of just kind of laid out a little bit, that he has a plan. He's the leader of this little terrorist group, or at least he's not. Of course, they don't think of themselves as terrorists in their own minds, although maybe, who knows. But they have agenda, a goal in mind. They want to rob the Nakatomi Plaza building, and they have the skills they got the cracker guy, the hacker. And then you got your hardware guys, your thugs, your muscle, all that. And he knows what the FBI is going to do. He's outthinking them. He's outthinking John McClane on the fly. He's a very charming villain, of course, because again, as portrayed by Alan Rickman. So I think he's very memorable. Maybe a lot of it will go to dialogue because of his speeches and the way he delivers, the stuff that he's saying. The script is quite strong. I'll say that now, here, but overall. So yeah, I think he's probably one of the most charismatic, memorable, and effective, and almost sympathetic to a degree villains. You understand his motivations, you understand what he's doing, how he's unfolding it, and you follow along him. And then you watch the chess match, him versus John McClane. So
I want to talk about him prior to the onset of the main plot.
Okay,
his introduction, because Alan Rickman really elevates this character with a little subtle things.
Mm-hmm.
When he meets the Tagashi, was it
the guy
Nakatomi?
No, it's not.
No, he has a different name for sure.
Mm,
Sorry, the businessman who owns and runs. He's the boss of the building. Yeah.
When he's giving the outlining this guy's accomplishments, and when he finally says that I'm the person, he approaches him with a giddiness of not only excitement of having found him, but also you can sense I feel a little bit of admiration there for someone who this accomplished.
Yeah,
and
it's subtle, but it's definitely there.
Alan Rickman, now Hans Gruber has all of the trappings of culture and wealth that everyone assumes that why he's doing this for a greater purpose.
Some ideological cause.
And he's playing up that, but I really like the portrayal of this kind of impish little character who knows he's smarter than the average bear and is playing, and he keeps his cool for the most part. And it just all falls apart because he was outplayed by John McClane. And watching that progression is fascinating to me. So I'm going to give him a very, very strong one. Also,
I agree.
I'm giving Johnson & Johnson because they're definitely
antagonists.
As a Jets fan,
they were sort of sub-antagonists.
Johnson brothers own the Jets. They're terrible. But
okay.
They're actually agents. they are
They did fuck
monsters.
up. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you're right. They're in a batch like, whoa, they said something like the Adu line is 20-25% civilian casualties acceptable. Like that's fine.
I can live with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so weird. They give them a couple throwaway lines. They're like,
We're just dickheads.
Just make them look
Yeah.
like as awful people as
Exactly.
possible. But yeah, I love Hans Gruber in this. He's amazing. He's one of the better villains ever.
Like I said, he may be one of the most
In an
memorable
action
ones
movie.
in film and in action movies and maybe in movies, the last generation or two in general.
Yeah, the portrayal is fabulous, and I don't have much more to say on top of what you guys have mentioned about him. I'm just going to give it a 1.
Just giving him 1. All right. Well, you can talk about the protagonist, Steve-O.
Okay, John McClane,
Mm-hmm.
Bruce motherfucking Willis
Yippee Ki-yay.
is Yippee Ki-yay, motherfather. He's also great. Like if Alan Rickman and Bruce Willis weren't both great in these roles, this movie
Would not be as...
It wouldn't be the
Absolutely.
we wouldn't be arguing that it's the best
Yeah,
action
man.
movie of all time. And
You're right,
the thing
man.
is that Bruce Willis at every turn matches like Hans Gruber's.
Yeah, they're trying to outfox each other.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the term that I'm looking for is, but like they both match each other throughout this movie, which is why it's so good. And like nobody, like we were talking about before, nobody makes the stupid move, and that is what unemotionally, but like even when they make stupid emotional moves, there is so much behind those,
Yep, I know what you're saying.
But I just want to. How does it end? It's actually a quick draw duel
Yeah,
between the two of
Yep,
them.
true. You're right.
Go back to the cowboy.
The
theme.
Western thing, yeah.
And
for
you
sure.
can actually see him when he's putting down the empty gun. Almost, he's not quite holstering it, but it's a motion to.
Yeah, it's
bring
reminiscent
about
of that thing, for sure.
yeah, and, absolutely. And I'm 100% sure that that's what they're exactly what they're going for.
Oh, yeah.
And it's played so well. The tension is built so well throughout.
I was saving that for
Through-
style, but you're absolutely
through
right.
both of their performances. And the fact, like, I just love the fact that they don't see each other except for that one point in the middle of the movie. So like, it's just this like slow buildup of like they're becoming each other's arch nemesis throughout the movie, which I
Over the
love.
course of
And-
like 6 hours or so, or whatever, yeah.
And I know I'm talking a lot about both of them, but I feel like you can't really talk about one without the other in terms of
I
these
think they're
because
perfect foils, like perfect,
yeah.
like you said, nemesis.
They play off of each other so well, and I'm going to give full credit for that.
F&A. All right. And so that will bring Ian.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Are you guys both giving
Yeah,
protagonist one?
I'm giving one. Like, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's probably,
Right.
again, Bruce Willis does a great job. Probably one of his better action movies, and that's kind of saying a lot because he's been in a lot of them.
Well, certainly the best of the
Yeah.
diehards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, the original and still remaining the best, I think I would say, and you guys seem to agree. But yeah, he's memorable, and again, a lot of it is the script, and a lot of it is also their portrayal and their acting, so got to give him a lot of credit. So yes, I was saying that will indeed now, in fact, bring us to secondary with E.
Carl Winslow
Wherefore art thou,
LAPD.
Carl Winslow?
did I would say great job in his moral support, his tether to safety to the outside, the only
A connection, yeah.
Yeah. And I like it, and he's smarter than his boss, so like he pieces it together. And watching him do that, and
Yeah,
that was
but his
necessary.
boss is a fucking moron.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's be fair.
all the higher law enforcement is portrayed as inept and bumbling, pretty much.
But that's necessary to kind of one. You need the foil. He needs his antagonist on the outside.
Yeah,
And you actually see the power dynamic shift between the principal from Ferris Bueller,
from Breakfast Club.
and and Carl Winslow.
Yes. Unfortunately, we have to.
Assistant Deputy Director Principal Richard Vernon.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
yeah.
their power dynamic shift over the course of the film when the deputy chief starts becoming subservient to Carl Winslow's sergeant.
Because he realized
Yeah.
he's
You also have
No, there's
the
more.
jerk. Well, there's actually a lot of jerk ass individuals in
Mhm.
this. You have the
No hearts of gold.
newspaper guy who
The reporter
exploits,
guy, yeah.
John McClane's children. You have the cokehead
Coked up deal broker guy,
yeah,
a scumbag
who-
corporate guy.
who was far worse than I ever remembered him being, and he is
It's funny.
insufferable.
Yeah, you guys said like, "Yo, he's more of an asshole than I was." Like, he's exactly the asshole I remember. Like, you don't remember how much of a dick he is in this movie?
Oh man, he is just terrible.
Sure.
Well, I didn't pick up all the coke usage when I was a little kid, but he is constantly
Dude.
using
In the middle of a hostage situation, he's
Exactly.
blowing lines off his.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's
Not
no
lines.
better time
Express.
to use than
I guess,
hostages
but
waiting.
yeah, I mean, it's funny that guys didn't remember that because I remember that completely, 100%.
Sniffing out of his fucking coke nail.
Sure.
And then Johnson & Johnson, if you don't put them in an antagonist, there's a lot of douchey people
Yeah.
surrounding this. So, but I'm going to give it a 1 because of Carl Winslow.
I mean, yeah, certainly he's probably the standout, the breakout, maybe not the
Huh?
breakout, but maybe the most important side character for sure. But I mean, I was going to talk about the rest of the terrorists. You got Carl, I like to call him Carl Hungus, like the one, as a reference to Big Lebowski. But like the one, his brother is the first terrorist that John McClane kills, so therefore that what makes it personal.
Ho,
So
ho,
when they had the fight at the end. That's what felt like a Bond fight kind of to me. You know, they had the big fist fight and he ends up killing him like wrapped around the chain, whatever.
He's the dragon.
Yeah, exactly. He's Hans's dragon.
Or
and
he's the Gary Busey from Lethal Weapon.
kind of, or something like that.
No, literally, they have the same... You thought they were
Yeah.
dead, and they pull out the gun at the end,
Yes.
and...
But no, you're right. And like I said, like the hacker guy was pretty good. He wasn't on screen a lot, but he had an important job with at least within their little plans, and I thought he was okay.
How could I forget Argyle?
Yeah,
Speaking of jerk
I was
asses.
getting to that. Yeah, Argyle. That is to say, John
Argyle isn't a
McClane's
jerk.
limo driver. He's just sort of like out of his depth. He's a young
Yeah.
kid trying to have a job in
Silly
LA.
bastard.
Yeah, trying to drive the limo and enjoying the perks that go along with that. But he does in fact contribute something at the very end where he realizes that they're trying to get away in a sort of a camouflaged paramedic van. He realizes it's the actual terrorist and prevents them from doing so. So he contributes there is what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say. Just that overall, they all built together. Whether or not they're jerk asses, they all make sense to the plot, and each have their little role to fulfill and play, and they all fit right in there.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So
You guys said,
yeah. Sorry.
I think all of
If you want to pick out anyone specifically or expand, feel free.
Did we mention Holly? His
No,
wife?
actually, yeah. She's
so this
also in the film.
is Holly. What is
Gennaro.
Gennaro?
She uses her maiden name, I guess.
And then she at the end, it's Holly McClane.
Yes, yes.
Which was kind of silly, but
It's fine. It was touching
she
enough.
was all right. I think my favorite scene with her is when she goes in and is like, "You killed my boss, so now I'm in charge."
Yeah, she
That
does
was-
take charge.
That was my favorite scene with her. I thought she did okay in that one. That was pretty good. Other scenes were whatever, but I'm trying to think. Like, I guess his kids are side characters, but they didn't really do anything. They were much more than window dressing. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. You guys addressed a lot of the characters.
I will say to another absurdist thing, though.
Sure.
The newscast team,
Yeah.
which was very Anchorman.
Yeah,
like
kind of in a bit, yeah.
Did you get that?
It was like a
Yeah, I
parody
got
of
it.
Network.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. They were pretty good. They had like a nice little scene or two there.
But Carl Winslow, Al, he did have cheese.
Mhm.
And I'm going to give him a 1 for that.
All right, very nice.
For his cheese.
Well done. Well, with that, that'll bring me to dialogue. Awesome. Yeah, like I said, the script is strong. It's probably even better than your average action movie because it's so snappy. Because Alan Rickman is giving all these speeches and John McClane's giving it right back to him. And I think the turning point is when
It doesn't hurt having Alan
Yeah.
Rickman and fucking Bruce Willis
exactly
giving you dialogue.
and especially so one of the cool things you point out so they're not actually face to face, they're just talking to each other through a radio essentially,
Yeah.
but they're still like jabbering back and forth and doing the Yippee Ki-yay thing, like, oh, you're a cowboy, you won't get away with this, like all this stuff, right? So there's also, maybe this is style, but the visual gags, the visual things, like the ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun, like all that stuff.
Right.
But even all the exchanges are great, fantastic, and especially like you said, the emotional stuff, like the sort of core support between McClane and Officer Al, if you will, right? Also through the radio for the most part, almost the whole film. So yeah, and then you got your moments of little levity, or absurdist, even dark humor with the FBI guys, like you guys were saying, and with Officer Detective Vernon, like you said, Steve-O, right? So like it all perfectly fits. And again, I think it's just stronger in general versus relative to many other popular and well-known action movies. So
yeah, so like Bruce Willis's dialogue in this is great, but in the hands of somebody that wasn't so great,
it wouldn't have been as
it would have been
memorable, for sure.
Really bad, because he's a super cavalier. Like, he is the definition of a cowboy.
Yeah, of his Captain Confidence, pretty much. So
you needed somebody that could pull that off, because I could see that role and that dialogue being really
falling flat,
cringeworthy a lot of times.
Yes,
and he pulls it off so well.
I agree. You're right.
And the same, like, this is going to sound weird, but the same in an opposite way with Alan Rickman, with Hans Gruber. He is the exact opposite of, like, cavalier. He's very careful with everything that he says.
Calculated,
Yeah. And he, wants to make sure that everything is done correctly. And him in that part, the way that he delivers his dialogue is fantastic. And, like, I can't. There's a lot of credit to be given to the script for this movie. For sure. But at least half the credit, I think, is to be given to those two actors for pulling off the shit that they were, especially Bruce Willis, the shit that he was told to say, and being able to pull it off and still have it look badass. Like, it was just, like, some of the stuff he said and, like, did was outrageous. Yeah. But
it felt natural.
But it worked. But it worked.
Sure.
So.
I'm imagining the two of them flipping the role.
That'd be interesting.
I'd watch that movie.
I don't think it would work, but it'd be interesting.
Dead. Oh, rip Alan Rickman.
Yeah. Indeed.
He's forever in my heart.
His legacy endures for sure.
No, but yeah, I'll give it a 1. Nothing more to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's move on to style, and that'll be you, Steve-O.
So, I'm going to mention first one of the things that I guess often go to, and the music in this, one of the reasons that I gave for it being a Christmas movie earlier, and I thought it was perfectly done. There are, like,
and placed. Yeah.
There are, like, classic versions of Christmas songs in here. There are, like, strangely redone versions of Christmas songs like throughout the movie. I think that the sound design is really good throughout.
For sure. True.
And it's just really well done in the sound department. In terms of, like, cinematography, I thought that there were some really cool action scenes, really well done, and you can see them in later movies, in later action movies. This basically set the template for, like, how to do an action movie. And, like, especially in the 90s, you see a ton of a ton of Die Hard in the DNA of the movies that came later. Well said.
Exactly.
And it's, especially in terms of, like, explosions that happen throughout those movies, and, like, the machine gun fights that were constantly happening in the 90s, like in action movies and things like that. So I'll leave off on that and let you guys go. But
I actually want to build off of what you were just saying with the sense of place in Die Hard, and especially in the chaos of battle. I was never always sure what floor John McClane was on, because it was limited. There were 5 or 6 floors.
Yeah, well, like 30 was played heavily into it.
Well, they said they locked down floor 29, like from 29 downwards. So because the vault was on floor 30, so therefore he had that and upwards to work with.
Yeah. And they would return to locations that you saw earlier and put an action scene there later. So I always felt like I felt I was as lost as John McClane probably
trying to figure out your way through this fucking building.
And I give it respect. But what's important, though, is not where he is between scenes, but over the course of an action scene, like when not the opening action scene, but the second one, when he's on the roof and he escapes on the ducks.
Yep.
I know where he is in relation to every villain that's chasing him.
Yeah.
And I've seen too many action films where, not that I'm confused of what's happening, but I don't actually, like, suspension of disbelief is broken because I feel that a villain appeared there when they shouldn't.
When they shouldn't have been able to.
The sense of place was broken,
Here, it seemed they took good care to make sure you knew where everyone was.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. And I have one thing to add, sort of this one specific angle, it's something that like often happens in video games, oddly, but I'll apply it here. So I think there's a lot of really well done attention to building up of tension versus just outright conflict and violence, right? He's not gunfighting everybody the entire fucking time. In fact, that happens only maybe like 30% through the film when the first actual gun is fired, at least against the terrorist group. So like I like that it's just tension a lot throughout, especially like the when Gruber as Bill Wyman or Clay Bill, whatever his name, like the fake name he gives, when he accidentally runs into him on the roof, like then you know that like, it's very tense because you know they know, like I know you know that you know, like like they're like having a conflict there, having a duel almost. And so like I really like the fact that the movie does a great job of keeping that up. Shit isn't blowing up the whole time. Yes, he drops the C4 but then that sort of like levels off for a bit. Then there's no like big explosion until another like 20-30 minutes go by, right? So it's not just like Michael Bay shit, like that 1,000 explosions happening all the time. When something does blow up or like there is a gunfight, it's impactful because it hasn't been happening the whole time, right? So I really like the aspect of that. And yeah, everything else you said, cinematography is great. Some of the shots when when Bruce Willis is in the air duct, like really like the shadows and the lighting on him and shit like that. And he's peeking down and like Carl is trying to like figure out, poking his gun up and shit. Like everything throughout is shot well, and again, like you said, gives a very well sense of place. It doesn't like not get jumbled around. Like it's not like fucking like Iron Fist fights or like they're cutting like oddly and bizarrely and doesn't make any sense. Everything perfectly makes sense, and it's well done. It's well shot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this movie took a lot of lessons from movies that came before.
Yeah,
specifically, you're talking about tension. Like you see like shades of like Hitchcock movies, and
you're right.
In the tension of like when he's up in the van.
It seems like an odd thing to say, but I think that is accurate. Yeah,
it is weird, but like you can see where all of that film history comes in this film.
Well, also the fact that they make it a point to stress his mortality.
Yeah,
true. It gets increasing. You're right about that. Yeah, good point.
It's not that he recovers 100% from situations.
Yeah, he's about to fucking fall down at the final conflict, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that adds to the tension of it.
You're right. It gets, like, again, it lends itself a bit to your suspension of disbelief because it's realistic enough, of course, within the framework. And yeah, he's getting more hurt and it's showing on him. He's not invincible. And I think that's very effective.
Yeah. And if you want to see the best parody of this ever, go watch the paintball episode of Community.
Yes, it is quite well done.
But I'm going to give that a 1.
Yep, I think we're all giving Style a very strong 1 because it's damn well done. So that'll bring us finally to recommendation. Ian, do you recommend Die Hard? Of course you do. Yeah, I don't have much, but it still stands. We chose it this year as like, not a jokey thing, but as our Christmas sort of send off before we're on a quick break before we come back in the new year. So see you then. But yeah, it stands up as one of the best action movies ever made, for sure. 100%. I absolutely recommend it. Still great to watch whenever, but especially during the season because it's more fitting. But I don't have much more to add than that. I think it should be on the AFI list. Maybe that's a conversation separately for another day. But
yeah. So yeah, I do recommend this. I think that if you're alive, you should like this movie. If you're under like 13 years old, you should still watch it, but you have terrible parents if you are actually able to pull that off.
I watched it when I was like 13, 14.
Yeah, well, you had terrible parents.
True.
I'm just kidding. Scott's parents, you guys are lovely.
If you guys are listening,
you're lovely.
You're fine.
But what was I saying? Oh yeah, watch Die Hard.
If you're a living human being, watch this fucking film.
If you have not seen Die Hard yet, get on that.
Yeah, and if it's been a while.
Die Hard, not the other Die Hard.
Yeah, just the original one.
Yeah.
Simply Die Hard, for sure. But I mean, I'm saying, and even if it's been a while, give it another watch because it's still certainly as entertaining as you probably remember it to be.
If you're looking for action movie sequels, check out the Lethal Weapon sequels. They're better than the Die Hard sequels.
Yeah.
Still not amazing.
John Wick 2 is also better than John Wick 1.
Sure.
But neither here nor there. Looks like I will give the final scores, having said all that. Very easy. I don't have to do any math. Turn the paper off. It's a perfect 10 from all of us. And I think that is the correct score.
It's the best action movie of all time. I will put
He's throwing it out there. Right.
And one of the best Christmas movie of all time. And I would say it deserves to be. If we take out something off the AFI,
it should be put on.
Yeah, we could figure something out. Take off the AFI, but
I could think of a couple things.
I agree.
Indeed.
I think this movie deserves a 10. I love it for nostalgic reasons, and I love it having just seen it again
It absolutely
because it
stands the test.
not only does it hold up, but like every time I watch this movie, and I've seen it probably 10 times at this point in my life, but
Yeah,
like,
or more.
every time I watch it, I like love it again.
Yep.
I like fall in love with it again. So watch it, and that's it.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, man.
It
Christmas
is a
miracle.
Christmas miracle.
Die Hard on a Christmas miracle. So yeah, I think that'll do it. Happy holidays and so forth from us here at the Lost Signals, and we shall see you next year. I, of course, have been Scott Thurlow, joined today by Jonathan Ian Manzer
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
and Stephen Amosi.
And a happy New Year.
Of course. Good night.
Editing and engineering by Jonathan Ian Manser. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or Mott's?